Adventure racing, the only place where trail running, mountain biking, kayaking, mountaineering, rappelling, hang gliding, skiing, and rafting come together all in one place.
Some say that the birth of adventure racing came from the two-day Coramore International Mountain Marathon. It was first held in 1968 and required a team of 2 people to traverse mountainous terrain while carrying all the supplies they will need for their double-length marathon run. The more modern-day adventure racing occurred in 1980 and was a coast-to-coast race where competitors paddled, skied, mountain biked, and ran trails. As the years went on, adventure racing became a mixed-gender team competition that could last days in great and challenging terrain. The rules are simple: no motorized travel, no GPS. Teams must travel together, no outside assistance, and teams must carry all mandatory gear. There are multiple kinds of adventure racing, too. There is a sprint, which lasts 2 to 6 hours. There's a 12-hour, a 24-hour, a multi-day race, and finally, an expedition race, which could last up to 11 days.
The culture of adventure racing is largely due to the racers themselves. These racers are kind-hearted people who would just as soon turn around and help you finish an obstacle or a certain discipline of the race as you would turn around and open a door for someone behind you. Now obviously, being a good person isn't a requirement for these teams, but I've read this on several websites and I would like to believe that most of the racers are these types of people. When out on the course, adventure racers show how they can be both competitive and compassionate in all of their activities. Several teams reported growing incredibly close with their teammates and competitors just by simply participating in the races. This acronym for teamwork describes perfectly the goal of every team during their race and the outline that most adventure racer teams follow. Total commitment, empathy and awareness of teammates, adversity management, mutual respect, a we versus I thinking, ownership of the project, relinquishment of ego, and kinetic leadership.
Adventure racing is exactly what the name implies. It's an adventure. Although these amazing racers have some pretty cool stories to tell, there are unfortunately quite a few bad stories too. Rebecca Rush, a member of Team Montreal, tells her devastating story of the 2004 Subaru Primal Quest. This race required trekking, ocean and downriver paddling, mountain biking, glacier travel, skating, scootering, ropes work, and navigation. Rebecca's team had befriended Team A-Rock from Australia. They had decided to team together a ways into the race with an advantage of 2 incredible navigators and being a couple hours ahead of the other 53 teams. They eventually came to the peak of a mountain that only had 2 ways down. Neither were safe. One by one, they descended down an unforgiving and extremely loose rocky wall. The last member grabbed onto a rock that hadn't budged for anyone else, but had dislodged at that moment, tumbling down the slope, just missing Rebecca, but slicing another team member's leg and striking Nigel, a member of Team A-Rock, in the back of the head, killing him instantly. No one expected something this terrible to happen. As Rush said, the same situations that make us feel alive can turn deadly in an instant.
Adventure races, also called expedition racing, can vary anywhere from 2 to 5 person teams. Adventure racing can include going through tire-length wide tracks on a mountain bike or hiking through a forest. Adventure racers will be going down rapids in a canoe and then going down a 100-foot rock face. The races can last a few hours or several days and can cover 10 to 100 miles or more. When it is called expedition adventure racing, it usually lasts 3 or more days, with some taking up to 2 weeks to complete. A large factor that can hurt a team would be sleep deprivation, as many top teams will choose to sleep only a couple hours a night. Races will often include mandatory pre-race gear checks by race personnel, and harsh penalties or disqualification may result if a team lacks the correct equipment. Many race organizers also include on-course gear checks. Racers are required to visit a series of checkpoints or passport controls, usually in a specific order to make sure they are staying on track and following the right course. People ask if it is a relay when they hear team, but it isn't. It's more of traveling together with all your teammates at all times. In fact, most races define how close you must be to your teammates and penalize or disqualify teams that disobey the rules.